Milagros College. So today we will learn about the fifth chapter, that is issues and concerns in human rights. So today we'll see what is poverty. So poverty is the deprivation of food, shelter, money and clothing. When people can't satisfy their basic needs, poverty can be understood simply as lack of money, or more broadly in terms of barriers to everyday human life. So poverty is where the individual is not able to fulfill his or her basic needs like food, clothing, shelter is known as poverty. So there are two different types of poverty. One is absolute poverty and the second one is relative poverty. Absolute poverty is wherein the individual is not able to fulfill his or her basic needs like food, clothing, shelter is known as absolute poverty. They are financially backward. Relative poverty is wherein the individual is able to fulfill his or her basic need, just the basic need he or she is able to fulfill, but they are poor comparing other people in the society is known as relative poverty. So next we will see what is illiteracy. So illiteracy is inability to read and write, either because it might be because of lack of education, or it might be because of learning difficulties or other intellectual impairment such as brain damage. So illiteracy is a term used to describe reading and writing skills that are inadequate tasks that require reading skills beyond a basic level. So that means illiteracy means one individual who is not able to read and write is known as illiteracy. We will see the different causes of illiteracy. Causes of illiteracy is illiteracy among parents. So many illiterate parents do not put much emphasis on the importance of education. Several of those born to parents who can neither read nor write end up being illiterate. So in many places wherein the parents are illiterate, they do not put much efforts or encourage their children to send to school or give education. So that might be one reason or cause for illiteracy. Next is unemployment of the educated. So without the promise of employment, education is not necessity to them. In a country where many of the educated are unemployed, there may not be enough motivation for the illiterate to go to school. So in many, for example, India, there are many of them who are educated but they are unemployed. So it might give a motivation for it won't be enough motivation for the illiterate. So what they might think is, if I am educated and if I am unemployed, it is waste of being educated. So that might be one cause for illiteracy. Next is lack of awareness in places where several members of the local population do not understand why it is important for them to go to school. The level of illiteracy may be high. So in remote places wherein they are not aware about the value of education. So nobody is giving them the awareness of education. So the lack of awareness is there in many places. So that might be one cause or reason for illiteracy. Next is social barriers. So many social barriers such as restriction on girls' education in some societies lead to illiteracy among the affected segment of the population. Education of the girl child has been an issue in some parts of the world, leading to the formation of different organizations focused on campaigning the education of women. So in many places wherein the girl child is not sent to school, they are not given the education. So that might be one reason for the illiteracy, that is social barriers. Next is lack of affordable education facilities. So those who live in very remote areas with few or no education facilities may remain illiterate. The nearest school might be found several miles away. So in remote places, the schools will be several miles away from their home. So it is very difficult for the parents to afford them the transportation facilities. The education might be free, but if the school is far away, several miles away, it is very difficult for the parents to give the transportation facilities to their children. Next is poverty. Poor parents with low income find it difficult to pay school fees. They are forced to choose between providing basic needs such as food, shelter and clothing and taking their children to school. Poverty is they can just fulfill their basic needs and they are not able to send their children to the schools. That poverty is one of the main reasons for illiteracy. So these are the causes for illiteracy. Next we will see human right in health. So the human right to health guarantees a system of health protection for all. So we get a human right once we are born. So every individual has his or her human right. So we have a right to health. So there won't be any discrimination. Everyone will get healthcare facilities no matter is rich or poor. Nowadays public healthcare facilities are being given by the government. It is free of cost. So everyone has right to health.